Right now, I'm looking from the kitchen into the dining room of the apartment that David and I took last month. And I want to show you some of the displays that I've set up here because of the fact that I think they're kind of cool. So most people, when they come in here, have told me, wow, this is like stepping into a museum. I don't know how true that is, but anyways, I've done a video on these bottles in the Look What I Found segment. But let's go over here. Here is a really nice, I guess you'd call it octagonal table. And on the table is a Bible from the early 1900s. And behind it is a nativity scene. Sorry about my reflection. A nativity scene that I built last year. And then up here is another nativity scene. This one using a really cool miniature pink alabaster egg for the setting of the. Here is one of two displays that I've made of various vintage antique marbles that I've found on housing sites that have been where old homes have been torn down here in Saginaw, Michigan. Marbles are abundant, but they're always fascinating too. This is another one of the displays. We're still in the dining room, and this is a collection of crucifixes, both antique and modern vintage. These were all dug up here in Saginaw by my friend Gil Alberg. It's one of the few scenes that I haven't created myself. I left them just as he had arranged them. And then above that is a scene which has a shadow box scene which has a little statue of David the shepherd boy. And on the left of that, a jug to refill oil lamps. And then at the very back, a really cool religious icon figure. Rather a valuable piece, actually. There's quite a variety of different types of collectibles and antiques. This one is from Gil also, and these are all patches from the Apollo space missions. I believe the earliest one on here is 1968, and it's an awesome collection. And next to that is a bookcase, and in the on the top of the bookcase is a scene with a model Mack truck from the 1920s. And then as you pan down in this particular bookcase, there are antique bottles, various odds and ends set up for display, and it's just kind of a fun bookcase. Now next to that bookcase are two others, and on the top, across the top, is a collection mostly of small pitchers and creamers, and I think the oldest one is this brown one that I believe is probably from the late 1890s. Then this section shows artifacts from the Saginaw River from when Saginaw was the lumbering capital of the world. The wooden pegs you see set up around the edges are actually wooden rafting pins that were invented here in Saginaw, because prior to that they were using metal, different kinds of metal pins, and the wood was abundant and cheaper. Below that, these are more artifacts from the Saginaw River. Two axes across the back are hatchets, two whiskey flasks, and then two axe heads and a double-bitted axe head. And the one on this side, I believe, was probably blacksmith made. I found a lot of them up north over the years, and they were all blacksmith made up north. This one has a more refined look to it. And then here, these are not necessarily anything to do with the logging industry. The cone ink bottle I surface found at a tear out again. The two sat irons, nice display pieces. The wooden bowl in the back, hand carved and approximately 150 to 175 years old. It was not dug up here in Saginaw, obviously, but it was preserved in a family for many, many, many generations. Next to that is a small black cast iron crucible whose origin I am unsure of. And you never know what you're going to find when you're walking down the streets as much as I do. Here are four handmade wooden scoops that were likely used 1890s, 1900 in general stores, where the but you know, to measure out flour, wheat, sugar, what have you. A couple more, there's another rafting pin and then a rat tail file that I happened across. Just about everywhere you look in here, there's a display of something in the background. It's a shadow box that I made of 1890s, 1880s artifacts from a tear out. All of the bottles here have been from tear outs. Most of these were from Gil Alberg again. More of the bottle collection. I like in particular the one in the back because it's a sarsaparilla, the tall one. And under that, more bottles. But each and every one is pretty cool to me. This one is from the east side of Saginaw, whereas I live on the west side. Horseshoes are usually pretty easy to find. 2 whiskey flasks in the back. The horseshoe on the left and in the center were ones specifically for walking on ice. And the little one on the right I found, again, was at a dugout, or not a dugout, a tear out. And then on this wall, collection of unusual rocks. There's a trace fossil on the upper right that has markings on it from where some critter scurried across the bottom of the ancient ocean. And here, lepidodendron fossil impression of the tree bark, and below that, another tree bark assembly, and these are from the, it's harder for me to pronounce, Sigillariia tree. And under that, another fossil specimen showing root or a branch from the lepidodendron tree. This happy smiling face, which is hanging crooked, and everybody wonders why. It's bad luck to hang them straight. I believe this is a Iroquois false face carving, not tremendously old though. Here's a collection of ironstone ware. All except 2 pieces were actually pulled out from underneath the old Court Street Bridge when it was being torn down to be replaced. Again, Gil Alberg pulled these out. They're awesome pieces. I said 1870s to 1880s actually, and they're just really cool finds. A lot of history tied up in them. And there are more shadow boxes, old car and a raccoon, collection of vintage or antique old cars. This is a little Italian scene that I made. Most of these scenes I made myself. This one was made out of a car that I found beside the road, model kit. And we got a lot of different coins and things. Little self-promotion when David and I did a pretty cool display of biblical artifacts not too many years ago. I like this one. It has a cast iron milk wagon in it, and there are children in and by the horse wagon, and they're actually broken doll's heads that I would, you know, put in the scene. And then over here is a little Sunshine Baker man. It's the closest I could come to someone who might be driving a milk cart. And here's a collection of tokens and collectible little coins featuring early automobiles, as well as a coaster there of an Oldsmobile curb dash runabout, and a driver's license from November 28th, 1919, which belonged to a George Bodine. I've tried in this area over here to keep mostly car displays. These are a NASCAR display of Hot Wheel size cars, but they're not, unfortunately, they're not Hot Wheels. But they came with a nice case and collectible cards with them. I paid, I think it was $2 for the set at a yard sale. Another Mack truck model that I found, 78 Camaro, model 1900 Ford, or not Ford, but Sears and Roebuck car. And again, I made all these shadow boxes myself by hand. Medicine vials, more medicine type vials, some wooden containers, and then set up an aquarium for display are different vintage and modern cars. The 2 across the back are actually Banks, and they were given to me for my collection by Cowboy Chris Gilbert. Another Mack truck. 2 1930s racing cars. I don't know who made them, what company I mean. Silver one's a Duesenberg. The white one up there is a Stanley Steamer. Like the 1960s car there, it's not in very good shape, but it has a helmet on it that looks like German World War One or II, excuse me. But this was from the 1960s, the car. And so that kind of does it for the displays in the dining room. I'll take you and show you the displays in the living room in just a minute. And this is looking out from the dining room into our living room. I love how open the place is. Okay, now we're in the living room, and this is in a far corner looking towards the dining room, and you can see there are many displays throughout this room. And again, most of them are ones that I've assembled and put together. And I want to show you a little more detail of each, unit. These there are bottles up here from a wide range of time frames, but the amber ink dark green are all from the 1870s and 1880s, and they were found here in Saginaw. And there's an Orange Crush one and a Squeezy. This one's my stepson with a Mickey Mouse, 1930s bisque Mickey Mouse that he found. And here we have a cute little scene with a large German bisque. And this is when I started making some in bottles. And this is the Headless Horseman. It was just kind of a fun scene to do. It's hard to see it in here. I'm sorry about the reflections. These are a set of Quaker salt and pepper shakers, and a scene that I finished recently. Mr. Sherman and Peabody and the Dinosaur. Boxcar Children. Little fantasy scene, which is really cool because I painted it green and fluorescent paint on the back, and it looks like the Aurora Borealis when at night. From one of my favorite movies, Invasion of the Saucermen. Again, I wish I could get this without all the reflection. And under that, a winter scene with some vintage Avon cars, and one that I made a couple years ago. I really like this one. And then there are fossils on either side of that, and some down here too, as well as Michigan float copper. And this one shadow box, which is one of the few that I've done that aren't under glass, is an aquarium for my pet plesiosaur that you see in the upper left there. And then, moving over here, I love this old basket, and as you can tell, it's fairly large.